I need you to forget everything that you think you know about Poland. Yeah, that's a lot to ask, I know, but just trust me on this one. Why? Because Kraków is a city that needs to be viewed with a completely clean canvas. No preconceptions, no biases, just a pure lens and an open heart. And I am certain that if you genuinely give it the chance, this city will change the way that you think about Poland entirely. I mean, it certainly did for me. My name is Josh, and I am a digital nomad who lives in a different country every single month. Join me as I eat and explore my way through Krakow and learn just what it is that makes this city the cultural heart and soul of Poland. Kraków was the last major city on my Poland road trip. I started in Gdańsk before heading down to the capital city of Warsaw, and from there, I hopped onto one last train that would take me directly into the heart of Kraków. I got off the train, dropped off my suitcase at the hotel, and walked to the iconic Old Town Square. And immediately, I sort of started to second guess my planning. Kraków is another world. I mean, it was sunny, it was bustling, it was beautiful. There were locals and tourists and street vendors. I mean, there were mascots and artists and musicians. This is the largest medieval town square in all of Europe. I love that shit. I mean, I was like a kid in a candy store, and I knew at that exact moment, literally less than 30 minutes after arriving, that I did not give myself nearly enough time to properly explore Kraków. But rather than allow myself to be frustrated and overwhelmed, I sat down and I made a list of the things that I was going to try to make sure to do with my limited time in Kraków. Number 1, try 3 famous Polish dishes that I hadn't yet eaten on this trip. Number 2, visit an actual royal castle. And number 3, allow myself permission to lean all the way into the whimsical and spontaneous energy that Kraków was sending my way. First item of business, food. Now, I had done a little bit of research ahead of time, and I read about this very historical food in Poland known as groats. Do you know what groats are? Good for you if so, because I honestly had never heard of them in my entire life. Thankfully, I didn't have to go far to find it, because Dobra Kasza Nasza is a restaurant right in the heart of the Old Town Square that specializes in these so-called groats, known in Polish as kasza. Groats is a bit of a catch-all term that sort of just means unprocessed grains. They remind me of a thicker rice, or sort of like a farro type of thing. I ordered some groats with homemade meatballs and barbecue sauce. I also ordered a cider, not because cider is Polish, but because I really like cider and I was living my best life. Thank you very much. Groats admittedly don't look super appetizing on camera, but despite its appearance, it tasted pretty great. It also came with some very delightful coleslaw on the side, which was great because I do feel like the heavy groats needed a lighter sort of palate cleanser like this to balance everything out. And it was actually pretty filling as well, which was good because I had an entire mystical castle to explore before I could eat my next Polish meal. Now, going in, I didn't personally know anything about it, but according to Wikipedia, Wawel Royal Castle is apparently the most historically and culturally significant site in all of Poland. To me, that statement seems a bit dramatic given Poland's vast and complex history. That said, I was not prepared for how huge this place was or how many rooms and displays it has. Literally, when you show up and stand in line for tickets, there are about 20 different ticket options determining which areas you'll be allowed to enter. It's complicated for no reason, and since I was visiting near closing time anyway, I decided to just walk around to the free areas without going into the main ticketed areas. If you decide to visit Wawel Castle and you want to see it for real, honestly give yourself like 4 or 5 hours, maybe even more than that. There's a lot to see here. I did eventually stumble upon the entrance to the Royal Gardens, and since you are able to buy a ticket to enter just this one small area, and there was no line at the machine, I decided to pay to do just that. And I was glad that I did. It's so pretty. I mean, there's a hedge maze and flowers and people taking pictures and more flowers. I also ended up doing the same thing a bit later and paying a few more zloty for a separate ticket to go down into the Dragon's Den, which is sort of like this huge staircase down into a rocky tunnel underneath the castle. And then, once you get outside of it, you'll see the famous Wawel dragon statue that actually breathes fire every so often. The only thing with this is that after going all the way down the stairs, you're sort of just actually outside of the castle at that point, and getting back up to it is a lot of work. So I decided that since they were closing soon anyway, that this would be the end of my castle visit. Even though I only saw a couple of the smaller areas, I'm really glad that I got to see the castle. I was checking off the items on my Krakow list already. I mean, this was going well. I actually got a recommendation for this one from a viewer here on YouTube. So shout out to Mateusz because he recommended that I visit Machonka po Krakowsku and that I should try their incredible sandwiches. These are super popular in Krakow specifically, which I love. They're essentially Polish pulled pork sandwiches, and you can get them loaded up with all sorts of exciting toppings. I probably would have chosen the spicy topping option most days, but since it was my very first time eating one of these, I decided to just go with the classic, which has pickles, mustard, and stewed onions. Juicy AF, flavorful AF. I'm sure you can tell from this video alone that this sandwich goes crazy. They also have like this lemon soda for sale here. I love lemons, I love soda. I mean, I really enjoyed all of this, and the whole meal was a great contrast to the much more dry and grainy groats that I had for lunch. And with that, all of a sudden, I had 2 meals down and 1 castle down. No doubt, I was due to stumble upon some whimsy. After my meal, it was nearly sunset, and undoubtedly, I was already on cloud 9. In some ways, you might say that I had already given in to whimsy at this point, but just then, the Krakow Balloon Museum came into my life out of nowhere just to make sure that I didn't miss the chance to have some fun on the streets of Poland. This really was so random. An employee sort of beckoned me inside from off the street because they had newly opened and offered me a pretty sizable discount to explore the Balloon Museum. And while I admit that there were, no doubt, at least 100 ways to better spend my time in Krakow, I said yes because life is short, and it was super fun. You know, it's small and it's simple, but it's very cute. I will say that the main point of it is really for the photos and the videos. So if you're super into Instagram, this will be perfect for you. And if not, you know, you can maybe skip it. And since, honestly, what could be more whimsical than balloons, that officially checked another thing off of my to-do list. And so, now there was only one thing left to do. The next day, I visited Zakopane on a day trip out of Krakow, which was just a blast in its own right. I loved visiting the city, and I highly recommend taking this day trip for yourself if you come to the region. I think my favorite part was actually just the landscape in the south of Poland. Mountainous and floral and just really, really gorgeous. I also especially loved this cheese with cranberry jam. Oh my god, this is one of the best things I've ever eaten. I genuinely mean that. Cheese, just grilled over an open fire. Obsessed. Now, I'm not gonna make a whole video about it because I don't want to spoil it for you, but if you would like to book this exact Zakopane tour out of Krakow, I have an affiliate link for you down in the description below. Check it out, and if you're interested, using that link to book directly supports this channel. So thank you in advance, you absolute legend. I made it back to Krakow after my day trip with just enough time for one last Polish meal, which, as it is, was perfect because my list conveniently required me to eat 3 Polish meals in Krakow. This time, I wanted pigs in a blanket, or as the Polish call it, gołąbki. If you watched the video where I visited Wrocław on my first trip to Poland 1 year ago, then you know that pigs in a blanket are very special to me. They're personal, they feel like home, so it felt like the perfect way to end this incredible road trip through Poland. I decided to sit down at a Polish milk bar called Bar Smack and order myself a beer and a plate of pigs in a blanket. As I ate, I reminisced on my trip through Poland, all that I had done and experienced across 4 cities. It was an incredible trip and I had no regrets. But in some ways, I almost wished that I had chosen to visit Krakow first. No shade to the other cities, they're amazing. But seeing Krakow changed the way that I view Poland. It has so much energy and life, and it feels like a place where you could really find amazing community and friends and just really thrive in the culture. I mean, who knows, maybe I will make Krakow one of my monthly digital nomad bases in the future. If you're planning your own trip to Poland, I hope that you see so many amazing cities and sites, but if you do, I think you should start in Krakow. I think that it will shape your view of Poland differently and give you a totally fresh start as you begin your journey around the country. I'm so glad that I went. And I'm so glad that I ate and I saw the art and culture, but mostly I'm glad that I leaned all the way into the whimsy of Krakow. And if you choose to visit, I hope that you do too. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe so that you don't miss all of my upcoming videos as I attempt to visit every country in the world. And click the screen now to watch the video that started it all, the story of my first trip to Wrocław, Poland 1 year ago.